Things Mr. Welch is not allowed to do anymore. When challenging someone to a duel, he must be allowed to find a gun.
Combat time out here on the Rim, but sometimes you gotta improve the combat or tweak it for fun and for profit. Do keep in mind this mod list is about combat mods that change the game's AI, or base mechanics, not actual weapons and so on. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some brutal pawn-on-pawn action. So first up, we got a big complicated change to the Raider AI, High 5000, Advanced AI plus Fog of War, with the Fog of War part being optional, bit of a mouthful to say the least. So what does this mod actually do? Well, it alters Raider AI first by improving their reaction time to less than a second. React to what, you may ask? Well, they will now avoid your pawns like the plague and take any positions away from your pawn's line of sight. This also means pawns will remember where their buddies are and take other positions, spreading out to make it harder for you to just pin them down in a single area. But I can hear you asking,
what about the kill boxes?
Yeah, not gonna fly here. Now, if you have a kill box, they will work to sap in cases of an unsafe approach, or if you try to funnel them. Yeah, Operation Divide and Conquer is in effect when this mod is in play. Good thing it's multi-threaded, because I imagine that with a big change to the mechanics, the game might not appreciate all the extra work. But there is still a bit more. The Fog of War. That rhymes. Like in Silent Hill, you might have an idea of what's hiding in the fog, but are limited thanks to the lack of vision. That's why we have CCTV to give you the eye of the sky. But there is one more cool thing with this now. You can go on stealthy missions. You can go to enemy bases and use the line of sight and vision to pick them off one by one like an agent of Foxhound, hopefully without raising an alarm. A great overhaul to make mechanics and a great way to start with this list. Combat Extended. Oh boy, what is there to say? Well, actually a lot if you don't know. Combat Extended is the mod that makes the combat far more realistic in weapons and armor department. Realistically in ways like actually needing ammo fire and smoke issues, actually bullet tracing as opposed to hit scanning. Oh yeah, and armor being more important than water itself. We've done a video on this mod in the past, but there is a reason it's considered a top tier mod. It really does make Rimworld feel like a brutal fight for your life, where you move, you make, and mean victory or doom. Right here we got Yayos Combat 3 continued. To some, CE's ripoff. To others, a nice side grade. To me and my writer, another fun mod with fun gun twirling. But for real, this mod can be seen as a side grade for Combat Extended, doing nearly the same things, making combat more realistic in terms of powerful armor versus lighter arms, requiring ammo, accuracy tweaks, and so on. Though Yayos has its own tricks. For instance, the animations, fighting out on the Rim, is gonna feel like watching a movie with some of the moves pawns will make. Then there is the ammo. In this mod, ammo is divided by eras and damage types. So spacer ammo for spacer guns, arrows for your bows, and liquid fuel for heavy flamers when you really need to purge them heretics. Some people do swear by CE, but a lot of people take issue with how hard it is to mod CE with newer mods, with how tightly controlled and tweaked it is. It can be hard to find and do stuff with this mod, you know? So Yayo works to act as a more generic copy, maybe not as precise, but more open source. No matter which side you take, both will make your realistic combat needs be fulfilled. So in our research, we discovered something. Guns are good, though once you get up close and personal, Rimworld pawns are kinda too stupid to use them point blank. Time for a bit of training, Matrix style. Introducing the CQC Brutality mod, a mod that aims to make melee, unarmed melee combat a bit more engaging by adding new forms of attacks, not just simple punches. We got nail scratches, we got palm strikes, and the always classic headbutt. It's a simple mod that adds a bit more variety to the Outer Rim mayhem. Plus, you finally have an excuse to make a proper boxing arena and sell them tickets. And before you ask, yes, there is Combat Extended patches for this mod. Now, if you want some altered combat mechanics that don't go overboard, try the Vanilla Combat Reloaded mod, whose focus is more on positioning. What do I mean by this? Well, say some big and ugly is changing you from the front and you got a melee weapon. You obviously would move to block, right? Well, with this mod, it takes that realism into account. So if you want a melee build, go for the back or side. This also applies to gunfire, not only targeting parts in a region hit, this left arm if hit in the side, eyes in the front, and so on. Though this isn't the only thing we got alteration to evasion based on speed, so super speedy pawns can duck between cover and evade attacks, which is pretty important since shooting skills are more in play in terms of normal and weather accuracy. There is of course armor tweaks and penetration tweaks to weaponry, and amongst the many other tweaks we got, there is the bullet stopping power simulation. This means now bullets can do different things based on how much stopping power a bullet has after passing armor. Things like fragmenting and hitting multiple parts passing through and just hitting through the affected parts, and of course mushrooming, which doubles damage to one part but doesn't move to others. Very nasty. A pretty underrated combat tweaking mod that me and my writer were surprised to find. Wonder what else there is to find on the workshop. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you all about our Patreon. This channel is funded by viewers like you and me. Couldn't do it without you guys. $1 a month goes a long way to helping us make future videos and keep this channel running. It would mean a lot to have your support,
And you get to see videos early.
thanks. Now back to the video. So with all the combat alteration, this means there is more chance for injuries, so why not mix it up with, well, more injuries mod? As the game implies, you get more injuries in combat. We got spinal injuries, paralyzing your opponent, shot in the stomach, releasing gastric acid and risking infection, lung and neck injuries, causing pawns to choke and needing CPR or unclogged airways, hypervenic shock from blood loss, requiring a blood transfusion or a hemogen transfusion if you have the biotech DLC, adrenaline surges from injuries reducing pain and increasing speed, and many, many more. This also comes with new supplies to work with, like bandages to combat bleeding, airway suction devices to reduce choking, and even tourniquets to really reduce blood loss. Just don't use them on the neck for obvious reasons. Certainly a mod that will make you have a few extra medics on standby. With all these mods that make it more dangerous to be hit, you might be worried about the real threat of friendly fire. We've all had that happen before. A pawn is going hunting, or maybe fighting off a raider, or in some cases, hunting a raider for meat. When Bill crosses the line, boom, you got a dead hauler. Thank you. Avoid friendly fire, a mod that gives you pawns a small but important little tweak. No firing if there is a chance for another pawn to be hit, be it a direct line of fire or a chance for a misfire. Oh, and it even takes into account if potential friendly fire targets have shield belt, not caring about hitting them if their shields have an over 10% shield. A nice touch to say the least. Naturally, in combat you need to be fast. Like we're talking as fast as Arizona Rager with a bit of iron on his hip fast. Draw a bead, and is a mod that will simulate that with aiming time, scaling with shooting skills, consciousness, breathing, and manipulation. Yeah, look at what difference you could have. You could have a pawn who could bring down an entire tribal raid with a fast fire gun if you max as much stuff out. Of course, keep in mind the same could be said about the raiders who come to you. I feel kind of bad for raiders who might be knocking on your doors when you have a super pawn taking them down. So let's give them the help with careful raids. A small, simple mod that gives raiders the power of memory, meaning all your traps and kill box spots will be avoided if possible. If they can't find a safer route, they will begin to bring down the walls like some kind of pitcher of Juice Man. Short, simple, to the point. Me and Bren do like this next mod, the Raids Extension mod, because it gives your enemies more ways to interact with you before they end up in our forcible organ donation program. We got poaching events where they show up to hunt whatever animals are on the map. Hilarious, more so when there are dangerous animals out in the wild. Logging, which can be a bit annoying, but otherwise pretty harmless. Randomly walking around lost, kinda sad really to see them alone and unsupervised. And finally, a hostile caravan. These are a fun to wreck since they carry proper merchant caravan loot on them. Catching up to the muffaloes when they realize they are being shot at, however, yeah, can be annoying. I hope the mod dev sees this and adds more fun events, like maybe one where they show up to dump toxic waste on our land, or perhaps coming to drop off tribute to not be killed, and if we let them go, we get a boost of faction friendliness, stuff like this. Now, one problem with mods is that a lot of them can increase your wealth rating, and a higher wealth rating in the early game can spell doom. Thankfully, the Combat Readiness Continued mod is there to help you out. It tweaks the storyteller's thoughts on wealth to be a bit more fair, like items being valued at market values, since you know guns and armor, while worth a lot, aren't worth a lot when you try to sell them. They also cut off pawns that can't fight, like say in the hospital or perhaps cryosleep. It's the little things that all adds up to more fair experience. Now, I won't feel like in the early game if I get something worth a lot, I'm about to get my teeth kicked in by the Spanish Inquisition. To round out this little list, we got Run and Gun. What more do I need to say about this one? It turns Rimworld from a game of position to be, well, a Benny Hill chase. In some cases, with pawns running all over the place and kiting enemies with gunfire. Yeah, I love it. I can be super satisfying to watch fast pawns run circles around enemies while picking them off, or perhaps making a retreat and firing back. Plus, it does make it fair with how running and gunning isn't inaccurate to normal standing still, and firing makes sense, and it also makes sense enemies can do the same. Always a fun mod to include into mod packs. Speaking of, let us know down in the comments any cool combat mods we may have missed. Never know what hidden gems can be found on the workshop to further tweak the combat AI in Rimworld. I'd like to thank all the awesome patrons that make content like this possible. Couldn't do it without you guys. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.